Well, may the fourth be with you. Big D back with a NASCAR edition. Before I bring in Fantasy Bosco, please subscribe, like, and share the Spunky Spectrum Sports YouTube page. No, we're not talking about Star Wars tonight, but we will be having a lot of fun. Also, check out the Big D podcast for all your audio listeners on Spotify and Apple. So, joining us to talk all things NASCAR, Fantasy Bosco with me. So, is the temperature finally warming up in your neck of the woods?
I believe so. We had a week of like 70 degrees and then it dropped to the 40s again. And then it had been around there for a while. And now over the last 2 days, we are finally seeing 60, 70-degree weather. Grass is growing, sun is out, but they got cold rain on the way. So this will be short-lived. But hey, we're into the summer springish up here. So now it's finally feeling like race season. In fact, the local tracks just are really kind of hitting it heavy now.
Ooh, yeah, I like it. Everybody, as the weather heats up, more and more tracks, and you're not just you, but everywhere getting shining. So think back to Monday. Yes, it seems like every other Dover race runs on Monday, and I think we're going to start calling Martin Truex Jr. maybe Monday Magic or Modern Monday, because it seems like every time Dover runs on Monday, he always runs well.
Hey, 3 out of 4, right? Going into the weekend, he had won 2 out of 3 Monday races, and now he's 3 out of 4, right? So, I mean, what can you say? And the funny thing was that, if you watch the race and listen to the radio audio, halfway through, you would have thought Truex was doomed and was bound to finish in last, the way the communication between the crew chief and driver was going on. I mean, it was funny because it started out a little rough, and then they like made nice throughout the discussion on the radio, if you will. But it was just kind of funny that you check in a little bit later. Oh, look who won. Number 19.
Yeah, thinking back to that race, I mean, I don't think Truex's call was great at the early, but I mean, a green racetrack calls are gonna change, and you knew one of these veterans was gonna put it together. And about halfway through the race, I'm like, wait a minute, the 19 call is like passing everybody. I'm like, wait a minute, he's looking like the best call. And then stage 3, and like the 1 and the 19 all like dominating. I'm like, Martin Truex is going to get his revenge on Ross Chastain. What happened the previous year?
Truex just seems to do it a little bit cleaner, if you will.
Yeah, he doesn't punt everybody. He's like, I'll just pass you the old-fashioned way. I mean, that last pit stop sure helped because he got on the pit road one lap before Ross did, which got him out lead, and that clean air matters at Dover.
Well, I would argue clean air matters anywhere where we carry high speed, right? I mean, I'm curious to see Bristol Concrete because I'm not sold that aero won't be a factor at Bristol Concrete. I mean, I guess it wasn't so much at Martinsville, but here again, I think shifting at Martinsville really skews what we see from the car. Like it masks some of the, whether it be a mistake on poor driving or even some of the speed. But you're right. I mean, you got out front here at Dover. We saw that with the Xfinity race. I mean, Ryan Truex, what did he lead? Almost 80 or 90% of that race. I mean, it was something ridiculous.
It was a Truex weekend.
It was a Truex weekend, man.
And I'll be Martin Truex snapped what was it, a 56 winless streak? I don't want to call it a losing streak. I call it a winless streak.
Yeah, man, was it that long? Had it been
Richmond
almost 2 full years? Wow. Okay, I guess I didn't realize he went all last year winless. But he did. That's right, he did.
He was one of the few. How Truex and Blaine didn't win last year when everybody else did, it's beyond me.
Right. Well, because when we were, a buddy of mine were counting at work, how many can we see this year? How many can we see this year? And we were real close to the final number, but we were banking on Harvick having a win, Truex having a win, Blaney having a win, all that sort of playing out, and it didn't all play out that way.
Blaine won $1 million, but he didn't win a points race.
No, he didn't. But, maybe he doesn't care. He bought a new house or something. I'm not sure. It's hard to say because I can't lie. If I had a down year where I didn't win a race, but I won a cool million, I don't know. I probably wouldn't be all that angry.
Well, I'll tell you two drivers who are very angry, who are feeling very crappy right now. One is Brennan Poole, and the other is Kyle Larson, because Ross Chastain was at it again on Monday.
The Poole, it's very frustrating because Poole has not been very successful regardless where he's gone. He's had some flashes. He's never really had good equipment, but whenever he's come to Dover, he's run well. Like he qualified well in the Xfinity race. He has incredible stats. I looked it up for the Xfinity article. His stats at Dover and Xfinity and trucks are quite good, or not trucks. I'm sorry. Trucks don't run there, just Xfinity, but he's even had some decent runs in Cup. And in all fairness, he was just minding his business, staying out of everybody's way. And poor Larson, like you and I were talking before the show, what does the guy do? He wasn't even near the action. I mean, Ross dumps him. Poole goes down the track as they're coming through the corner. So he's out of view of Larson entirely. And then comes up about the time Kyle's mid-corner. Like, what do you do? I felt Kyle had potentially a car to beat. Really, Hendrick is just, if you're not a Hendrick car right now, I know we've seen other teams win, but I feel like it's been kind of fluky and lucky at times. But man, Larson had something for him yesterday, so I can understand his frustration. And I got to ask, because, we talked about Joey Logano being aggressive. Like you mentioned to me, I think it was the first time I came on, how Joey's really one of the most aggressive drivers out there. If you really want to look at the data and the numbers and everything else. And I was like, holy crap, you're right. He is one of the most aggressive. Where do Joey and Ross rank right now then? I mean, is Ross number one, Joey number two? Does Joey do it a little better like Senior did? Everyone likes to talk about Senior, but it's like Senior didn't wreck guys. Senior moved guys. Like Senior was really, really good at moving you. It was very rare. The Terry Labonte wreck at Bristol was not a norm with him. You know what I mean?
I think Ross is one, and then Joey might be two, and then everybody else. But there is a
their own tiers.
But there is a sizable gap between Ross and Joey because, Joey will have his moments. Remember William Byron at Darlington last year, but it seems like Ross has been involved with everybody. Chase Elliott a couple of times. Truex. Now Kyle. Who's left for him? Who's left for him? Maybe Kyle Busch or Joey Logano. I can't imagine what would happen if Ross wrecked Logano.
And I want to say that Kyle did make a couple of comments about Ross in the past. I could be wrong, Kyle Busch. But I tell you what, the sad thing is, Dylan, Brad Keselowski learned this years ago when he was running for a championship, right? You don't want to piss off the guys you're competing against in the playoffs. You really don't. And you know what? Joey should have learned that too. I don't think he did, but to this day, I have no problem with the fact that Matt Kenseth ended Joey Logano's championship run. I applaud that move for doing that. I don't think Joey thought twice about doing it to someone else. I don't like the hypocrisy of it. So I guess my point being is, at what point are we really going to see this start to bite Ross Chastain? Because, Ernie Irvan was quite talented too. And he ended up having to get kind of his butt put in place at one point too. And when he did, he came back, was even a more successful and a fun driver to watch. And it feels like this Ross Chastain stuff is kind of headed that direction.
Somebody's going to get Ross, and when it does, Ross is going to get what he deserves.
Hey, with him and the Denny thing, he said it was done behind him, and Denny owed it to him. So, what's interesting to me is it's like Ross sees what's going on, and he's admitting, yeah, it should be better. Yeah, I had it coming to me, but nothing is changing. You know what I mean? Like, at what point, it's kind of like Ricky Stenhouse. Yeah, Ricky, we know you're trying not to wreck cars, but you're still wrecking cars. So we're going to yank you out of the car because clearly you don't get it. And the Trackhouse is not going to yank Ross out of the car. He's being too successful right now. But I got to believe, to your point, Dylan, someone's gonna jump up and bite him, right?
I mean, wait till Phoenix. Maybe Kevin Harvick's last race will just punt Ross Chastain out of the way.
Can you imagine him coming out of 3 and he just moves him up the track, and it's one of those where the one car is just smoking tires as it's kind of sliding through because that's a long sweeping corner there, right? Just sliding through the corner as Harvick's hugging that bottom line like he does, just going on to a win. Like, honestly, that would be probably the coolest story of the season if we could see something like that.
And I will say this, I think everybody was in on Kyle Larson. He was probably heavily used. FanDuel, DraftKings, fantasy, betting. Like, if you didn't use Kyle Larson on Monday, I don't know what you were doing, because go ahead.
I want to say he was 48% to 50% owned on DraftKings.
I believe that, because Kyle was that quick, and he was passing calls left and right, and I'm like, Kyle Larson's going to win this race.
I mean, it may have been, you know what? I can probably look, Dylan, if you want to give me 1 second. I'll look, because you're spot on. The money in the lines came in heavy. And you know what? His line this week has already moved. He was at 550 and he's already down to 500. I mean, I get that's not a big jump, but the line's moving. You know what I mean?
Is that including odds to wreck Ross Chastain again?
No, but you know what? If I was DraftKings or a sports book, I would seriously put a line out on who's the next driver Ross Chastain crashes. The problem is you'd have to have specific rules. Like, it's going to have to be, specified as an accident with another driver where the car of Ross hits the other driver, causing a wreck. But
Kyle's 50% in the single entry I played on Monday.
Was he 50? I figured he was. I thought mine was. So the one I was in was 44%. Next highest in my lineup was Truex and Josh Berry were both 28%. Let me see what the winner had here. So the winner had, Byron was only 16% owned. Yeah, I tell you what, Dylan, if you're going to win at DFS, you have to pick fairly chalky with one exception. You need to have a bunch of guys that are anywhere from 15 to 50% rostered.
Whoa, Josh Berry was 32% owned in the single entry I played.
I believe it, because he started so far back, man.
And Austin Dillon was 40% owned.
40?
Yes.
Ooh, I'm not so sure about that call. I wonder why he was so highly owned.
Started dead last.
That's why people are looking at a free square, because he started dead last. Sure. I mean, you figure he's worth a top 20 finish, right? So you automatically get 16 bonus points if he does that, plus his place, his points for placing. And he's probably only what, a $8,000 driver or less?
63.
How much?
6,300.
Oh my God. At 63, he was a stupid cheap square. I'm not sure. Yeah. Shame on me for not pushing him more in my articles, because that's just stupid cheap. Although I don't think he was in any winning lineups that I saw.
He was in the winning lineup. He
was?
I think it was in the winning GPP I played. It was Truex, Byron, Denny, Ross, Dylan, and Corey LaJoie.
See, this one had Corey LaJoie, but no Dylan. This lineup had 440 points, was Byron, Truex, Chastain, Blaney, Burton, and LaJoie.
Well, Burton would have been another PD play. Like, literally, Ryan Blaney ran P3 all afternoon.
Yet Josh Berry only scored 4 less points than him.
Not bad for a fill-in.
No. Well, and rumor has it, he's got a ride in Cup next year.
Oh, yeah, probably replacing Kevin Harvick, right?
It was Stuart Haas was who it was alluded to. I believe it would probably be that 4 car. But I don't know. I mean, is this Amarola's last year? Is he coming back next year? I don't know what Chase Briscoe is signed through. I just knew that there was probably a. Go ahead.
I think Chase might be signed beyond this year.
I think you're correct. I thought, for some reason, though, I thought there was potentially 2 openings, and I want to say the 10 and the 4.
All right, so obviously we're about a third of the way through the schedule. So I want a couple fantasy yay, I want a couple NASCAR nays, and a couple yays and a couple NASCAR nays this year. A couple guys who've been good and not so good this year.
All right, so I'm going to cop out and say, look, the yay's Hendrick. I mean, penalties or not penalties, you know, in my opinion, it's the class above the rest, right? Last night when I checked lines for the Cup race, the top 3 odds were all the Hendrick guys.
Wait a minute.
Since then,
wait a minute. Let me guess. Kyle Larson, William Byron, and Chase Elliott.
Yep. Now, since last night, Chase has dropped. So it's still Larson and Byron, but now Chase has dropped down from, say, plus 700-800 to plus 1,200. So he's back there with, he's ahead of Kyle Busch. He's, where did I have him at? He was ahead of Kyle Busch. He was ahead of, he was behind Denny. I want to say put him about 7th in odds. But yes, you hit the nail on the head. And even Barry was buried kind of in the back. But I tell you what, if you could pick him up for a top 10 for the week, I'd be all over it.
Especially because the 88 calls run well at Kansas. It's one of our best tracks.
Right. So Ross Chastain is plus 1,200. Elliott's plus 1,200. Kyle Busch plus 1,400. Bubba Wallace plus 1,400. So it has them all put together. Even Ryan Blaney's further back at plus 1,500. But yeah, so my yays, it's the Hendrick. I think they're the team to beat, and I get it's a long season and we may see things evolve, but I'll be honest, I think everybody's in a world of hurt because I think Hendrick is continuing to get better. I personally believe that Garage 56 is helping them. People think I'm nuts, but by the end of the year, I think we're going to see, man, I tell you what, I will not be shocked, Dylan, if we see 3 Hendrick cars in the Final 4.
I think we saw 3 Gibbs cars in the Final 4 a couple years ago, right?
Oh man, I think you may be correct. I'd have to go look it up because it would have been Truex, Kyle, and Denny, right?
I'm thinking 2018, 2019.
I would for sure have to look that up. I do not know off the top of my head. That's a really good call. But regardless, now as far as nays go, well, I'm guessing this will be a cop out too. I'm giving Ford overall a nay. Outside of the restrictor plate races, in my opinion, they look really, really bad. I mean, Joey Logano, average running 20th all day, somehow lucks into a Martinsville win, right?
Well, second.
Or second, I'm sorry, not a 1 second. Good call. Somehow lucks into a second place finish, right? The RFK cars looked improved, especially relative to other Fords. But look, Blaney's been running up there. There's no wins. Austin Cindric has been a forgotten name. Logano flat out wrecked all by himself this past weekend. I mean, he straight up said in the booth on Saturday, he doesn't know what happens. He used to run well at that track, and now they can't get the car to run worth a crap. So, you know, in Harvick, he had that great, I mean, he got screwed out of that one win. But other than that, we haven't seen much from any of the Ford camp, man.
Yeah, it seems like Ford has gone all in on the Daytona Talladega Atlanta package because, I mean, Logano won Atlanta, but then you think, where were the Fords last week? I mean, Brian Blaney was running P3 all race, but Brian Blaney is destined not to win a race for the next 75 years. Like, he'll become Martin Truex winless streak 2.0 before long.
He's on the way there, man, because if you go look, even at this track, he's got a whole pile of top 10s and top 5s, 0 wins. his stats at this track at Kansas are identical to what you're describing, what Truex went through. And I bet if we pull it up, I bet she's got to be approaching that 56 race number. It's gonna be, if you take out the All-Star race, I bet you it's really, really close. It may be longer.
That
What did
is
you find? What did you find? You're laughing. What did you find,
no,
man?
I mean, no, Blaney's by the way, Blaney's average finish at Kansas is, where is it? Let me see. Wait, oh, it doesn't have average finish. He's got actually, it doesn't have a top 10 in his last 6 Kansas. Oh, wait, top 10 in his last 6 Kansas. Wait, actually,
So he has 7 top 10s and he has 7 top 10s and 16 races here and 3 top 5s and 16 races.
But no check.
So in all fairness, but no wins. So in all fairness, he's had almost 50% of his finishes at Kansas in the top 10.
I will say this: Blaney's driver rating is better than a few guys. Better than Ross. Like Blaney and Kevin Harvick's driving ratings are almost the same.
Right. Let's see. Driver rating for Blaney here is 6th best. Okay. Average running position at Kansas since 2005 when they've been keeping loop data. Okay. 9.457 to lead the series. Average finish of 16.438. Kyle Busch average finish is 9th best at 14.79.
But he's got to win. But Kyle Busch has got to win in that time.
Oh, Kyle's got 2. He's over his, again, where they're pulling the data from, but he's got 2 wins, 10 top 5s and 14 top 10s in, we'll just set it up. In 30 events, Kyle Busch has 14 top 10s, 10 top 5s, and 2 wins.
I've got another driver for the Fantasy Nay. You mentioned Kyle Busch. How about Kyle Busch's teammate this year? I didn't realize this, but Austin Dillon's only got 2 top 10s this year, and one of them.
I'm not shocked.
Third race.
I think he's a perfect Nay. You would have thought by Kyle Busch getting there that it would have helped elevate the team, right? And honestly, Dillon's gone backwards from where he's been the last couple of years. Makes me question why. Now, I will say this. It's my understanding that Austin is why Kyle is there. I'm starting to wonder if we're going to start seeing a transition of Austin taking over this team from an ownership perspective.
Would it be from Papa?
Right. I mean, his dad might be involved with that and all of that, but our CR is not getting any younger, right? I mean, we're already seeing it kind of, that the torch be passed at Hendrick to Jeff Gordon, Jimmy Johnson's taking over, more or less taking over what was RPM, now Legacy, right? Denny Hamlin's got his own team going. It just, the fact that I was reading about how Austin brought Kyle in and some of the things Austin has said, and the fact that he is struggling, it always seems like to me like Brad last year, right? Brad taking over that ownership and, he's washed up. Well, no, they got a lot of stuff to fix at RFK, right? So and Hamlin kind of the same thing. He took on that team. I think people forget that they're used to being a professional driver and there's certain things that come with it. And then as they take on ownership of a team or take on a bigger role or a stake in the team, that's time, that's effort, that's brain power, that's all these different things that, I don't think you can quantify very easily. And it just makes me wonder. I just wonder if maybe we're seeing a little bit of Austin Dillon taking on a little bit more ownership stake, I guess I should say, in his grandfather's team.
All right, so now this weekend the Cup Series makes its first stop at Kansas Speedway for the Advent Health 400. So I love this racetrack because you can run high, you can run low, you can run middle. So what do you think is going to happen this weekend? Because we've only seen one true 1.5-mile race at Las Vegas. Atlanta's basically become Daytona, Talladega, just smaller. So if you think back to Las Vegas, I mean, guess who won there? Hendrick call.
I was saying,
what else is new?
So, and Kyle Busch was a favorite that week, if you remember, and he ran okay. That track is very similar, right? Because it's progressively banked, just like Kansas is. Little bit wider at Kansas. I agree with you. As far as the mile and a halfs go, I happen to think Kansas puts on one of the better shows. I really do. Look, I've been pretty consistent on this, Dylan. Give me one of the Hendrick guys. If you're going to put a gun to my head and say I have to pick one, give me Kyle Larson. And if I want a dark horse, it would be Kyle Busch because in Vegas really likes Tyler Reddick this week, just for what it's worth. Now, Reddick is in the same car that won this race last year. Kurt Busch is number 45. And Reddick qualified second and first in the 2 Vegas races last year. Now, Kyle Busch is in that car. So I'm very torn because you know this. Kyle Busch has had a very tumultuous tenure here at Kansas, right? Like he's always been fast, but he had wasn't there like a 9-race stint where he crashed or something silly like that? Like there was a spread there where he admittedly was like, oh, I just can't, we just can't get to the end. He'd either blow a tire or ruin the back end or something like that. Give me Hendrick though, man. And I tell you what, if you're going to make me make a bet though, because Chase Elliott is plus 1,200 to Kyle Larson's plus 500, I'll take Chase Elliott for a $5 bet.
I think it's going to be a battle between Kyle Larson and Tyler Reddick this week. And the 45 car didn't win just the spring Kansas race, but Bubba won the fall Kansas race last year when Kurt couldn't race.
I forgot about that. But Ty Gibbs was in that car.
No.
All he did was
he switched. The 23 and the 45 switched because the 45 was running for the Owners' Championship.
Right. I thought they just switched numbers, though. I thought that was the whole thing. They said they just switched numbers. I didn't think they actually switched teams.
Well, the Bubba was in the 45 call, Ty Gibbs in the 23 call. Not that it mattered.
I was to say they're the same team, so it should theoretically be the same. I'm thinking from like a crew chief standpoint. You know what I mean?
It's like back in the day when teams would like switch numbers halfway through the season. We're like, what the heck is happening?
I forgot they used to do that on the regular, man. That's right. That because of the way the whole Owners' Championship worked out, right? Wasn't that the whole thing with it?
Yeah, I remember. I don't remember what year it was, but I think Cale Yarborough like switched Jeremy Mayfield and John Andretti's numbers.
I remember that being a thing at one point. I forgot about that. That's funny.
You tested out my Wayback Machine.
Yeah, I see that, man.
Who do you think needs a good weekend this at Kansas?
I tell you what, if someone needs a win, it's Blaney. I mean, for as well as he's run all year and the last few weeks. Look, there's so many teams I'm looking at the ones that have won so far this year, and we don't have a ton. We got 3 drivers with 2 wins. Of course, 2 of those 3 are Hendrick drivers, and the other one lucked into a dirt race win. Ross probably needs one to some degree. It would really be great to see Harvick get one here, man. I think that's more from a fan standpoint. If RFK could find a way to get a win. Right now I'm looking at the point standings. Check this out. Brad Keselowski's 13, Chris Buescher's 14. That's pretty impressive considering where RFK was last year. Legacy with Eric Jones, man, he's way down there. He needs to start getting some. The guy who probably needs a win to get his head out of his butt is Bubba Wallace.
One of his best tracks.
Yeah, I would say he does run well here. I think, though, I'm looking forward to next week. You and I talked about it on Twitter. I think him running trucks next week in Darlington is absolutely massive. You were spot on. He's been lacking confidence. I had hoped last year's Kansas win would shake it a little bit, but it hasn't. He is definitely lacking confidence.
Maybe he's lacking confidence because it seems like every time Denny Hamlin's in contention, either he speeds on pit road or the 11 team makes a mess out of pit road.
And see, that goes back. I just wonder if Denny's trying to do too much at times inside the car. You know what I mean?
Maybe he should pit the call himself.
Maybe. Man, Austin Dillon is 30th in points right now.
Where's Noah Gragson in points?
31st.
Oh, gosh.
And Ty Dillon is 32nd.
Oh, no. Who's 29th?
Harrison Burton.
Where's Corey LaJoy in points?
Good. 21st.
So
now this is the driver playoff look. This isn't up. You know what I mean? Like, they've got him sorted with the wins and the stage points and all of that.
Does that include RCR's penalty?
Yes. I didn't know RCR got penalized.
I don't know what happened, but I think RCR was bopped a few races ago.
Because I know, obviously Hendrick was, and that's on here. And so was Colleague Racing with Justin Haley. Justin Haley and Allmendinger are right next to each other in the standings, 25th, 26th. Ryan Preece and Chase Elliott are next at 27, 28. Todd Gilliland's 22nd. The poor guy that got 5 races or 6 races taken from him is 22nd.
Better than Austin Dillon.
Yeah. And Preece, in all fairness. I'm a big Preece guy, and Preece. Like, I get Chase Elliott only has 5 races. Like, it's funny looking at this because Chase Elliott's 28th, but it shows the number of races, and there's a 5 for Elliott while everyone else has 11s. You know what I mean? So it's like, geez, guys, it ain't going to take much for him to pass you.
All right, Bosco, thanks for hopping on with me, and hopefully Kansas provides another great showdown, because I think we both like this track, and it's gonna be hot this weekend.
Can we pray for one thing? Better TV coverage. Like, I'm starting to come to the conclusion. We talked a little bit. What do we got to do to fix NASCAR sometime? I'm starting to think maybe TV is the biggest problem, bro.
Maybe, yeah.